Have you ever felt like the world has completely written you off? As if your story has already reached its final chapter while everyone else moves ahead of you? Welcome to RationalDeen. Today we are uncovering the powerful truth about why your period of silence and struggle was never a failure, but a divine setup for a comeback that is about to leave every single one of your doubters in total shock. You are going to learn a tremendous amount throughout this video about your true purpose and the spiritual mechanics of your elevation. So make sure you stay focused and listen closely to every word because your entire perspective is about to shift. In a world obsessed with constant visibility and immediate results, it is easy to believe that if you aren't winning publicly, you have already lost. The world measures success by how fast you run and how loud you shout, but God operates on a completely different timeline. What others perceived as your finish line was actually just the boundary of an old season that you had outgrown. You were not reaching the end of your life, you were simply reaching the end of a version of yourself that could no longer serve your higher purpose. When you went quiet and stepped away from the spotlight, people assumed you had given up or run out of momentum. They mistook your strategic withdrawal for a permanent defeat, because they do not understand the mechanics of spiritual transformation. A seed must be buried in the dark before it can break through the soil, and your period of absence was that necessary burial. While the world was busy counting you out, you were busy shedding the weight of expectations and preparing for a weight of glory they cannot yet comprehend. The illusion of the finish line is one of the greatest traps set for the chosen ones because it relies on human logic to predict a divine outcome. People around you saw your struggles and your setbacks as final evidence that you were done, but they failed to realize that their sight is limited to the physical realm. They judged your ending based on your current circumstances, never imagining that the very fire they thought would consume you was actually refining you for the next level. This transformation required a period where you looked like you were failing by every societal standard. You had to endure the whispers and the pity of those who thought they had seen the best of you, all while you were secretly being rebuilt from the inside out. This hidden growth is the most dangerous kind for your enemies, because it happens in a place they cannot touch or influence. By the time they see you again, the work will already be complete, and the person they thought they knew will be long gone. Now, as the veil begins to lift, the shock that follows will be a direct result of their narrow perspective. They were so sure that you had hit a dead end that they didn't see the bridge being built right under their feet. Your resurgence is not just a return to where you were. It is an elevation to a height they never thought possible for someone like you. The finish line they celebrated was actually your starting blocks for a race they aren't even qualified to run. The silence of God is never a sign of His absence, but rather a sign of His deep focus on your development. When the doors began to close and the people who once supported you started to fade away, it wasn't a mistake or a stroke of bad luck. God intentionally removed the audience because He needed to work on your soul without the interference of outside opinions. True power is forged in isolation, and the noise of the world would have only served as a distraction from the internal shifts that were required for your survival. It is vital to distinguish the difference between being stagnant and being hidden for a purpose. Stagnancy is a lack of movement, but being hidden is a form of protection while you are under construction. You may have felt like you were stuck in one place for years, watching others pass you by, but in reality you were being kept in a divine incubator. You were being shielded from battles you weren't yet equipped to fight and from opportunities that would have destroyed you if you had reached them before your character was ready. Finding peace when it feels like nothing is happening is the ultimate test for any chosen one. This season of silence was designed to strip away your reliance on external validation and force you to find your worth in your Creator alone. When the phone stops ringing and the invitations dry up, you are forced to confront the parts of yourself that you usually hide behind busyness. It is in this void that you finally hear the still, small voice that provides the blueprint for your future. Internal alignment must always precede external manifestation. Otherwise, the success you achieve will eventually crush you. This quiet season was your training ground where you learned how to manage your ego, how to handle betrayal, and how to maintain your integrity in the dark. God will not put a massive platform under someone who has not yet built a solid foundation. Every day of that silence was a brick being laid, ensuring that when the shock finally comes, you will have the strength to stand firm. This isolation was never meant to be your permanent home, but it was an essential stop on the journey to your destiny. You had to learn that you could survive without the applause, and that you could keep going even when no one was watching. Now that the work in the shadows is nearly finished, the silence is about to be replaced by a roar of breakthrough. The very people who ignored you during your quiet season will be the same ones who are most stunned when the light finally hits your completed masterpiece. The suddenness of your elevation is designed to break every law of human logic and societal expectation. When people witness a slow, predictable rise, they credit your hard work or your connections, but when the breakthrough is explosive and unexpected, they are forced to acknowledge a higher power at play. This shock factor serves as a divine signature on your life, proving that you didn't need the traditional paths or the approval of gatekeepers to reach your destination. By the time they realize you've ascended, the gap between where you were and where you are now will be so vast that it can only be described as a miracle. Those who wrote you off or celebrated your downfall require a public display of your restoration to correct their perception of reality. It is not about seeking revenge or feeding your ego, but about providing a clear testimony that God has the final word on your destiny. The shock they feel is the weight of their own misjudgment crashing down, forcing them to see that the person they mocked was actually being prepared for greatness. This moment of vindication serves as a reminder to the world that you cannot judge a book by its middle chapters when the author is still writing the ending. A sudden and public elevation carries a spiritual weight that a gradual climb often lacks. It captures the attention of the masses and creates a platform where your story can impact those who feel just as hopeless as you once did. God uses the shock to create an undeniable shift in the atmosphere, making it impossible for others to ignore the light that you now carry. This high-visibility transformation is meant to shake the foundations of those who are complacent and to offer a beacon of hope to other chosen ones who are still in their waiting period. The contrast between your lowest point and your highest peak is where your power truly resides. If you had just stayed at the same level, your story would be common, but because you went through the fire and came out refined, your presence now commands a different kind of respect. The world is shocked because they saw the fire but didn't see the fourth man in the fire with you. You were being fortified while they were busy counting you out, and that hidden strength is what makes your current success so unshakable and terrifying to the average person. Ultimately, the shock factor is a tool for divine alignment, bringing you into your rightful position with such force that no one can contest it. It shuts the mouths of lions and opens doors that were previously bolted shut against you. You are entering a season where years of progress will be compressed into months, leaving those around you wondering how you bypassed the line so quickly. This is the reward for your endurance during the silence, a manifestation of glory that is so bright it leaves no room for doubt about who you truly are. The process of pruning is often mistaken for a season of loss, but it is actually a strategic removal of anything that would hinder your upcoming harvest. God begins to strip away the people, habits, and environments that served you in the past, but have no place in your future authority. While it feels like you are losing your support system or your sense of identity, you are actually being cleared of the dead weight that would have caused you to collapse under the weight of your new blessing. This thinning of your circle is a sign that the fruit you are about to produce is so heavy that only the strongest branches can remain. Every person who walked away from you during your darkest hour was intentionally removed because they lacked the capacity to handle your next level. Their exit was not a reflection of your worth, but a divine protection against those who would have tried to take credit for your success or drain your energy once you reached the top. God clears the path by removing the voices of doubt and the presence of those who are only attracted to your potential but not your purpose. This isolation is the preparation for a higher frequency of living where only the aligned can survive. One of the most difficult parts of being pruned is the pain of being misunderstood by those who see your losses as a sign of failure. They watch you lose your job, your status, or your relationships and conclude that you are being punished or that you have lost your way. They cannot see the root system that is being strengthened beneath the surface, or the new growth that is already starting to sprout in the shadows. To be a chosen one is to be okay with looking like a loser in the eyes of the world while you are being crowned in the eyes of the Creator. You cannot carry the baggage of your old self into the palace of your new destiny, which is why the pruning must be thorough and sometimes even brutal. This stage of your journey is about internal purification and ensuring that your heart is free from bitterness, pride, and unhealthy attachments. The fire of the pruning process burns away the illusions you held about yourself and others, leaving only the raw, authentic essence of your soul. This purity is what will allow you to hold your upcoming power with humility and grace without being corrupted by the very things you once craved. Once the pruning is complete, your energy is no longer divided among things that do not serve your calling. You emerge from this season lighter, more focused, and possessed of a clarity that was impossible to achieve when your life was cluttered with distractions. The garden of your life may look empty for a moment, but that emptiness is the canvas upon which God is about to paint a masterpiece of abundance. Get ready, because once the dead weight is gone, the growth that follows will be rapid, lush, and completely undeniable to everyone who thought you were done. The concept of a table being prepared for you in the presence of your enemies is one of the most powerful forms of divine vindication. It is not enough for you to simply succeed in private. There are seasons where God chooses to display His favor in the very place where you were once mocked, rejected, or overlooked. This isn't about seeking personal revenge or gloating, but rather about a public correction of a false narrative. When those who tried to bury you are forced to witness your feast, they are confronted with the reality that no human opposition can stop a divine mandate. The presence of your mockers as front-row witnesses to your blessing serves a specific spiritual purpose. It acts as a testimony to the fact that you did not sustain yourself through your own strength, but were upheld by a power they cannot comprehend. While they were busy counting your mistakes and predicting your downfall, God was busy preparing a spread that would eventually command their attention. This moment of elevation turns your past humiliation into a platform, showing that the very people who tried to limit you are now the spectators of your expansion. Maintaining true humility during this period of public elevation is the final test of your character. It is easy to become arrogant when the tables finally turn, but a chosen one understands that the seat at the table was provided by grace, not by ego. Your role is to remain focused on the provider of the feast rather than the faces of those watching you eat. By staying grounded, you demonstrate that your worth was never tied to their opinions in the first place, whether those opinions were negative in the past or envious in the present. This divine shift in power dynamics is designed to settle the score without you ever having to lift a finger in your own defense. When God prepares the table, He takes on the role of your protector and your promoter, allowing you to simply sit and receive. The silence you maintain during your trials becomes your greatest strength during your triumph. You don't need to explain your success to those who witnessed your struggle. The abundance on the table speaks for itself, and the peace you carry while surrounded by opposition is the ultimate proof of your calling. Ultimately, the table represents a place of rest and nourishment in the middle of what used to be a battlefield. It signifies that you have reached a level of spiritual maturity, where the presence of enemies no longer disturbs your appetite for what God has for you. You can eat, grow, and celebrate even while the world continues to doubt or dislike you. This is the mark of a true leader, the ability to thrive and remain nourished by divine promise, regardless of the atmosphere or the audience that surrounds you. You are not returning to the world as the same person who left it. The fire of your trials has burned away the impurities, leaving behind a version of you that carries a new level of authority. People will try to interact with the version of you they remember from years ago, but they will quickly realize that the old you no longer exists. This new version, your 2.0 self, is not just improved, it is fundamentally transformed. You carry a weight of presence and a clarity of mind that can only be forged in the depths of a long and difficult wilderness. The wisdom you gained during your period of isolation is an asset that no amount of money or formal education could ever provide. While others were gaining status, you were gaining substance. You have learned the secrets of resilience, the value of integrity, and the reality of divine timing through lived experience. This wilderness wisdom allows you to navigate challenges with an unshakable calm, because you have already survived the worst that life could throw at you. You are now a person of depth in a world of surface-level distractions. Walking in this new confidence is different from typical self-assurance, because it is not rooted in your own abilities, but in your partnership with the Creator. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone because you have already been validated in the secret place. This lack of ego is what makes you truly dangerous to the kingdom of darkness and truly inspiring to those who are lost. Your confidence is quiet, steady, and immovable, acting as a shield against the criticisms and expectations of those who do not understand your journey. The authority you now walk in is a direct result of the discipline you developed when no one was watching. You learned how to govern your emotions, how to silence your doubts, and how to stay the course when the destination was nowhere in sight. This internal mastery now manifests as external influence. When you speak, your words carry weight because they are backed by the character you built in the shadows. You are no longer seeking permission to lead. You are simply stepping into the role that you have been meticulously prepared for. As you step back into the light, you do so as a finished product of a divine process. This version of you is equipped to handle the blessings that would have crushed the person you used to be. You are ready to lead with compassion, to build with wisdom, and to shine with a light that is pure and authentic. The world may be shocked by your sudden reappearance and your newfound strength, but you will simply smile knowing that every tear and every moment of loneliness was a necessary investment into the powerful soul you have become. When the world begins to witness your shocking progress, many who once walked away will suddenly find reasons to reappear. They see the fruit of your labor and the divine favor on your life, and they will try to reconnect as if their absence never happened. You must recognize that their return is often motivated by your new success rather than a genuine care for your soul. Disconnecting from these doubters is not an act of malice, but a vital step in maintaining the purity of the new season you have entered. It is essential to distinguish between those who stood by you during the root phase and those who only show up for the harvest. Many people are attracted to the light but were unwilling to sit with you in the darkness. By allowing these individuals back into your inner circle, you risk introducing the same toxic energy that God worked so hard to remove during your pruning season. You must be discerning enough to realize that not everyone who claps for your victory deserves a seat at your table. Setting firm boundaries is the only way to protect the peace and energy you fought so hard to gain. You have spent months, perhaps years, rebuilding your spirit in isolation, and you cannot afford to let old voices of doubt or opportunism back into your mental space. These boundaries act as a filter, ensuring that only those who are aligned with your higher purpose can access the new version of you. Protecting your peace is an act of self-respect and a requirement for your continued elevation. You may feel a sense of guilt when you stop responding to those who once felt like family or close friends. But you must remember that their exit was part of a divine plan. If they couldn't handle your struggle, they certainly cannot handle the weight of your glory. Letting go means acknowledging that some people were only meant to be part of your history, not your destiny. Your loyalty must now be to the calling on your life, which requires a focus that is unhindered by the distractions of the past. As you move forward, your focus must remain entirely on the path ahead, rather than the people standing on the sidelines trying to get your attention. The noise of the doubters, whether they are now praising you or still whispering behind your back, should no longer affect your internal state. You have reached a level of maturity where you don't need their validation to know you are winning. By staying disconnected from their influence, you ensure that your trajectory remains clear and your connection to the divine remains unbroken. The fire you endured was never intended to consume you, but to refine you into something unshakable. Every trial, every moment of loneliness, and every setback was a deliberate act of spiritual chemistry, burning away the insecurities and weaknesses that would have hindered your future mission. You emerge from the heat not as a victim of circumstances, but as a masterpiece of resilience. The world sees the transformation, but only you and the Creator know the true depth of the refining process that took place in the dark. Refining your character requires a heat that the average person is unwilling to face. You were chosen for this specific path because you possess the internal capacity to survive the process without losing your integrity. The strength you now carry is forged in the furnace of reality, making you a leader who cannot be easily swayed by the opinions of others or the pressures of the world. Because you have already faced your greatest fears and survived, you move with a level of authority that is intimidating to those who have lived in comfort. This chosen one mark is a visible resilience that scares the average person. They see that you have been through situations that would have broken most people, yet you stand taller and shine brighter than ever before. This strength is not something you can study or buy. It is a spiritual armor that is only awarded to those who have walked through the fire and refused to quit. Your presence now serves as a reminder that what was meant to destroy you has actually become the foundation of your power. Realizing that the pain was your greatest teacher allows you to view your scars with pride rather than shame. Each wound represents a lesson in survival, a testimony of endurance, and a badge of honor that proves you are battle-tested. You no longer look at your past with regret because you understand that every difficult moment was a necessary investment in the person you are today. The strength you gained in the fire is the very tool you will use to help others navigate their own seasons of struggle. Walking in this strength means that the minor inconveniences and criticisms of daily life no longer have the power to faze you. You have already survived the life-altering storms, so the drizzle of common problems feels insignificant in comparison. This perspective is a gift of the refining process, giving you the ability to stay focused on the big picture while others are distracted by the small things. You are now unshakable, not because you were never tested, but because you were tested to the limit and found to be made of something far stronger than you ever imagined. As we draw this session to a close, remember that your story is far from over. It is actually just beginning to get interesting. I want to hear from you in the comments. What was the biggest lesson you learned today? And how has your perspective shifted regarding your current season of silence? If you have made it this far, it proves that you are truly ready for the elevation that is coming. So I want you to comment the word chosen below to let me know you stayed until the very end. Your likes and comments are incredibly important because they help this message reach other chosen ones who are currently in the dark and feel like they have been forgotten by the world. By supporting this video, you are helping to spread a message of hope and divine vindication to those who need it most. I leave you with this final thought. Do not be afraid of the fire, for it is only there to burn away what is not yours so that the true gold of your soul can finally shine. Thank you for being part of RationalDeen, and get ready, because your comeback is about to be the greatest story ever told.